Well, good afternoon or good morning for those of you who are joining from the Mountain Time Zone or from the Pacific Time Zone. Welcome to our regularly scheduled TimeSolv Wednesday webinar. This is Scott Clayson. I'm Director of Marketing for TimeSolv. We'll be starting in another minute or two. I just want to give people time to jump in when they can to the webinar. So feel free to grab that last drink of water, sandwich, whatever, before we get going. So be back in another minute or so. Okay, I am going to go ahead and get started. It's a couple of minutes after the hour here, and I know a couple of people might still jump in, but I do want to get ourselves moving. So once again, welcome to our May Wednesday webinar here at TimeSolv, where we look at the tips and tricks so that you can get the most out of our software. For those of you that are joining me today, thank you very much. I know there was a bit of an issue in that these are supposed to be the second Wednesday of every month, and I think most people these days are familiar with Zoom, which is what we're doing this webinar through. That's what we do. All of our meetings and demos for clients and support training sessions with clients is what we use. We've been using it for a couple of years now. And in their webinar scheduling toolbar, if you will, when I set up all of the Wednesday webinars for all of 2020, I designated it to have it be scheduled the second Wednesday of every month. And I did not go through and look at every single month to make sure it was scheduled properly. And somehow the May Wednesday webinar was scheduled for last Wednesday, the 6th, which I'm staring at my calendar and I can swear that's the first Wednesday of May, not the second, which is today. So I had to send out that emergency embarrassing email to everybody, letting them know that we would in fact be doing the webinar today. So my apologies. I honestly am not sure what happened there exactly. But here we are. It is the second Wednesday of May, May 13th. And let's get started and start talking about TimeSolv. Hopefully everyone is healthy, happy, safe, and getting through the crazy times that we're still living through as best you can. And I'm hoping that, more importantly, that you and your family are safe, but that hopefully your business is also able to, at least remain as strong as possible during this time, because I know it's crazy out there in the world that we're living in. So, okay, let's start talking TimeSolv and tips and tricks. I don't think it's going to be a super long session that we're going to be doing today. Couple kind of little-ish things that we're going to cover. So let's get to it. And just a reminder, everyone is on mute. There is going to be, you will have time to ask questions as the as we go through here. Please leave them in the Q&A. You should see a Q&A icon down at the bottom of your screen where you can put questions. There's also a chat area as well, I believe, where you could do chats. But the Q&A is the best place to put things. I am going to be putting a link later on into the chat session for you all to access if needed. This is being recorded. It's always automatically recorded. Those of you that have been to these webinars multiple times know that I send out the link to rewatch this webinar after it gets processed, usually the next day. Sometimes I've gone as long as till Friday before I'm able to send out the email, but you will be getting a link where you can watch this again. So, all right, let's talk about our topics for May here. First, I want to introduce you guys. Hopefully you've seen this, but we have a new in-application help section to allow you to access our help articles without having to leave TimeSolv. So I want to show you that in case you've missed it, and how to leverage the convenience of having that within the application now. The next thing that we'll talk about is a newer feature that we just introduced in a release that went out in late April, and that is now the ability to group no charge entries on invoices in the time summary section. This was a specific request that came from a couple of clients. We felt it had enough business usefulness to roll this out widespread for everybody who uses TimeSolv. So I'll show you how that functions, because I know it is important, obviously, to be able to show no charges in a clean way on invoices. Then the third topic I wanted to discuss, I know we've gone over this before, but I do want to mention it again, and that is using our billing category feature. Some other systems I know call it billing queues, but it's the idea that you can generate your draft invoices based on the categories that you may have set up. And I'll talk about that obviously when we get there. And then the last topic I want to discuss today, and it hasn't really been talked about a lot lately, I know, at least in these webinars, and that is using our task rate feature. And this is probably more applicable to businesses, perhaps non-legal businesses using TimeSolv, where a lot of your work isn't necessarily driven by the unique billing rate of the individual, but is based on the billing rate of the activity or task that's being worked on. So I'll show you how you can really leverage that in TimeSolv. I know it's really useful for CPAs, IT companies, I know PR agencies and so on, where they might bill, yes, they bill by the hour, but they don't necessarily bill by like an individual's billing rate. So those are the 4 topics that we shall cover today. So let's get started. And let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm logged into my TimeSolv account. You guys are all very familiar with this. And about a month ago, you probably, hopefully, noticed a new thing that showed up in the application. And that is right down here at the very bottom right-hand corner of my screen. You see there's now our help icon. When you click on that, and it's called a beacon, that's the name of the tool that the help software, the support software that we're using, they call it a beacon. So we just call it our beacon. When you click on it, you'll notice that you will see a series of articles that appear. The articles that will appear here will be based on what page you are on in the application. So for example, you're being served right now articles on managing time entries, time approvals, managing rates, and so on. If I were on client and matters page, for example, and I click on the help icon, I'm going to be served up articles on managing clients, managing matters. So this is contextual help articles based on where you are in the application and the articles that we feel are most relevant to whatever page you're on. You also can then just do a search in here that will hopefully find you the right help article for whatever it is you're having issues with. Once you find the article that, or it's one of these articles that you want to access, simply just click on the title, and it's going to serve you now this article right in this pop-up where you can read it. Okay, so it's pretty, you don't have to leave the application in order to read what you need to read here. You can watch videos and so on. Most of our articles have, these are called anchor links. So if you want to specifically look at custom fields, you could click on that. It's going to take you down to that section of the article. As you can see, it's now near the bottom. Here's one thing I really do want to point out, because it's not very intuitive, and we're trying to work with the software that we use to manage this to make it more intuitive, is I know for a lot of people, I'm kind of the same way, I might want to read this article in a separate window. I don't want to read it in this constrained space here. I want to see it a little bit bigger. To open up the actual article on our knowledge base site, you can come over here, and if you hover over the name of the article, you'll notice there's a little icon here. That's kind of the universal icon I think we're all used to show you that if you click on this, it's going to open up in a new window. So if I click on this, now you'll see I'm going to help.timesolv.com to this same article, but just within our knowledge base. Okay, and so here's the same exact article, just in a bigger format. So I wanted to point that out. Also, I want everyone to understand that this is a great way to access individual help via chat. So if you just don't find the article you're looking for whatever reason, just come over here to ask, click on that, and you'll have the option of emailing our support team or starting a chat with them. Previously, you could chat, and you still can, on our help site. You know, we're on help.timesolv.com, and if you click on this icon down here, you can, again, start the conversation the same exact way. What I discourage people from doing, we set this up a little differently so it doesn't happen as frequently, is if you're on just timesolv.com, now we have a chat function on timesolv.com here as well that you'll see pop up here in a second. You should see pop up here in a second. This is more driven in all of TimeSolv.com, obviously for people who aren't using our software yet. It's not driven and aimed for our existing customers. So that's why if it says, I'm a TimeSolv customer with a support question, you click on that, you're gonna get a reply from our little bot that we've set up that, you know, you should go to the knowledge base website and start a chat there or call our number, okay? So again, the easiest, fastest way, if you want to do a chat with our support team, is to just initiate a chat right within the application. So we're trying to make it more convenient for you all to access the help that you may need when using TimeSolv. So that's the whole point. We're also going to, in the future, be leveraging this tool to be able to pop up some announcements about the application, like when we have new releases that come out. It'll pop up when you next time you log in and tell you we have a new release. Here's how you can access the release notes so you can see what's new or different about TimeSolv. So that will be coming. The aim is to have that done by the end of Q2. So by the end of June, we should have that in place. Okay, so that is the help beacon, as we call it, within our application. I hope everyone's had an opportunity to take a look at it, find it, access it, and have fun with it. As much fun as you can have with a help website, I guess. Okay, next topic. Let's move it along here. Let's talk about a feature that was released a couple of weeks ago to allow you to group no charge time entries in the invoice time summary section. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to do a time search. And I'm going to do it for this client and matter here. And I hit search, and here's all the various time entries I have out there for this particular client, Amir, and the client name or the matter name of test. And you can see I have a variety of time entries, and I have 3 that are NCs, no charges. And again, notice as I hover over them, you can see where it says time entry is no charge. So I have 3 no charge entries here. I'm going to go ahead and create a draft invoice for this matter. New draft invoice. I'm going to go to that specific matter and create the invoice. I'm going to download it real quick so we can look at it. And this just looks like I'm using the regular flexible billing template that comes out of the box with TimeSolv. And you're not going to see anything unusual here. You're going to see the time details. You're going to see the ones that are no charge. These are the 3 that are no charge. And that's about it, right? Now we do have our time summary section of a template that you can also have on the invoice. So let me show you where you can, if you haven't included the time summary details that you can put in, let me show you where you can do that. So I'm gonna just click on the dollar amount here. And right here is our flexible billing template. I'm gonna choose a different one, a copy. And then I'm gonna edit that template. And if you go to the time tab, there's this section over here, include time summary. And in this case, I'm gonna group it by professional. And then here's the new addition to our time summary. You check the box, group by billable type. So I'm gonna go ahead and select, this is already set up in my template, flexible billing template copy. So I don't need to do anything, I'm just gonna hit update here, even though I don't need to. Now that I've selected this template, I'm gonna hit save. I'm gonna download the draft invoice again, and let's see how it's changed. Okay, here's our time details again. Oh, I need to pause very quickly. So please hold on just a quick second. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I think there's some distractions sometimes in our work from home life, so my apologies. We're looking at we had the time details, same as it was previously, but now here's the time summary, and you can see now it is showing me, it's grouping the no charges, totals, and of course the amount is 0, but it's showing me that Scott Laidlaw, for example, had 3.1 hours of no charge. Mike Hagman had 2.9 hours of no charge. So again, a nice flexible way for you to be able to display and easily show your clients a summary of the no charges by person, by the professional. And right now that's the option, is to, as you noticed when we looked at the template, it's a subcategory, if you will, of grouping your time entries by professional. So again, if you want to, you can always edit your templates right here when you're looking at a draft invoice. You can also go under invoice and settings. This is where you can access all flexible templates. And again, whatever one you want to apply to the template, just click on it. You can go to the time entry section, and here's where you could, if you wanted to do it for your generic one that I have here, turn that on, okay? Okay, so that is where we can have our no charge summary, and where we turn it on, turn it off, and how we apply it. And again, I guess I should make sure everyone is very clear, so I should have probably shown this first. When you're creating a time entry, there is this billable type here, and you can make it required, that it has to be billable, non-billable, or no charge. Here's an important thing. Not every timekeeper will see this by default, this billable type, with the ability, because obviously you don't necessarily want to give some freedom to every single one of your timekeepers to choose to make a time entry non-billable, no charge. And I think it shouldn't go without saying, non-billable are time entries that will not appear on an invoice but are recorded, so that you can have you can see what time entries have I done that I'm not billing for, beyond just a no charge, which actually will show up, as you saw, on an invoice. More importantly, if you do want to give access for your timekeepers to be able to change the billable type, you go to where the professional levels, or where the professionals live in your account, click on their name, go to permissions, and right here you'll see update billable type. And you'll want to check that box. Admins will have the ability to do that no matter what. And you can also even uncheck it for admins if you'd like. Okay, same thing with expenses. So this would allow the timekeeper. So if I go back to my list of timekeepers and Benny Barnes, for example, who is just a kind of a rank and file timekeeper, you can see he has actually very limited access to anything. Let me go back to somebody who maybe has more access. Mike Hagman, let's say. Here you can see by default, this is turned off. So Mike Hagman will not be able to update billable type. If you check this box and hit save, Mike will now be able to choose billable type. So that's an important thing I think to make sure everyone is aware of, is that by default, your timekeepers are not going to see the ability to change the billable type, okay? All right, let's move on. Next topic, billing categories. This is a feature that we added, gosh, maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, maybe not quite that long. I don't recall exactly, but it gives you the flexibility to create your invoices by essentially in batches based on the categories that you designate. So let's talk about how you go about doing that in TimeSolv and the use cases. When you go under clients to settings, you have a tab over here called billing categories. Click on that. And you can see I've created a series of billing categories already. Some can be, you could, and this is, I'm thinking about most often use case, you may create a categories based on when you bill them, like here's annual, these are for, you would designate clients and matters that you only bill annually. Contingency cases, if I spell contingency wrong, it looks like. Monthly, quarterly billing. I know there's some firms that only bill their clients on a quarterly basis. Or you could also do your billing based on the practice area, like bankruptcy law or criminal or family or real estate law. I created both of these types of, and again, you can do whatever you want. I set this up in my demo account with the best case scenario, or probably the most popular use case scenario. So you can set up these billing categories, and then you need to apply them to your clients and matters to make them useful. So in your client and matter list, when you go to a specific matter and go to invoice settings, you can also do it at the client level too. So let's show you the client level. Same thing, go to invoice settings, and you will see under invoice settings, a billing category. This is where you could select to say, yep, Amir is somebody that I bill annually. You could also say it's annual and bankruptcy. So you could just kind of do a cross-reference for when you create your draft invoices. You could say, you'll be able to say, create draft invoices only for those that I have categorized as annual bankruptcy, that sort of thing. And again, you don't have to do it here. You could also do it specifically at just the matter level. So if I select the matter, and again, I'll go to my invoice settings, and this is where I could select, bankruptcy, annual, whatever. So you can select multiple categories, which makes it kind of nice to designate or really get specific in the filtering when you go to create these batch invoices by category. So let me go ahead and show you where you would do that. I don't think I have a lot that are categorized. So it may not pull many invoices for me here, but when I go to my invoices and drafts, and I go to new draft invoices, this billing category here is what you would then choose. Say, yeah, I want to create drafts for those that I've designated as my annual bankruptcy law firms. And then you would hit create, or whatever designation you'd like, right? So maybe it's the end of quarter 1, so your May billing, or excuse me, your April billing was covering everything that you charge for January, February, March. So you would just choose quarterly billing. But maybe you do want to do it in a very organized way. So you want to do your quarterly billing of just your family law clients and hit create. And then it'll pull and create the drafts based on the fact that you've categorized your clients in this fashion. Okay, so I think it's a really useful way to organize your creation of your draft invoices when you send them out every month. And again, you can create as many different categories and by whatever many names as you'd like. to make that happen. One thing that is a suggestion by one of our support people is, because one of the questions that comes up, well, can you run a report based on the billing categories? No, we don't have reports based on billing categories, but you can run reports based on our just generic categories. So we do have just categories. In this case, I have one I just labeled type. And again, I've named them the same thing: annual, bankruptcy, contingency, criminal, and so on and so forth. So you could come in and not only have you designated that the invoice setting is, bankruptcy annual, and I'm going to hit save. But then you could also, under the general tab, here's the categories here, type, I could say annual and bankrupt. Oh, I can't. Oh, I thought you select more than one. Oh, that's my fault. Okay, so then you could at least run a report then once you save this and say, hey, show me everybody that I've billed that's annual. When you're doing on your invoices reports, all the various invoice reports. So aged invoices by annual, by criminal, whatever you want to do. So that's one way to use categories, billing categories, if you'd like, for reporting. But I think most people, and the reason why we set up a little different than just the generic category is it's just a way to leverage the creation of your draft invoices in a kind of a billing queue, if you will. So just do all of your, bankruptcy law, hit create, boom, 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 check them out, send them, move on, create new draft invoices for whatever the different category is that you have. So it's a really nice tool to give you flexibility in how you bill, or how you create your drafts, I should say. Okay, last topic. Let's talk about task rates. I haven't gone over this, I know, in a while. This is actually a fairly unique feature within TimeSolv, and I know a lot of other time and billing systems don't allow you the flexibility to do, and that is when you select a task code. So in this case, I'm using TimeSolv Legal, so I have all of the ABA task codes built in this is for electronic billing. Okay, so you have the ability to set that if you select a specific task code, it will change the rate from whatever your default rate is. So if I have I think this one here, B150, I have designated as a different rate. Notice that my default billing rate is $285 for Scott Laidlaw, right? That just self-populated when I pulled up this matter. But when I select the task code of 150, I don't have it set up, so I can't do that. It will change, and I'll show you how you can do that. So and this is a lot of non-legal firms, like I said at the top, if you are really task-driven and your rates are different depending on what type of work you're doing, you can really leverage that here. First, let me show you that under time and settings, you can change the label for task to either activity, event, or task, if you want to call it something different. If you want to set a specific rate for a specific task code, you go under task codes tab here. Again, we're under time and settings. Okay, under time and settings. I'm going to be on the task code tab here. And I do that 150 does have a specific task code, and I'll show you why that didn't work in just a second. But I can set up, and if I just click on the task name, let's click on one that doesn't have a rate. So B140. And by the way, you can create as many different tasks as you'd like. You delete tasks and so on. These are the built-in ones when you have TimeSolv Legal. As you can see, I have a couple here called conference call, whatever. So let's click on audit. So let's say whenever you do an audit, you're a CPA firm, I don't know. This is going to be an hourly rate type. It's going to be billable, okay? And the rate is, $200. Notice I could have said this is a task-based rate, not hourly. Meaning, and again, this goes back to leveraging, if you're really, everything is task-driven, you've negotiated, the way you charge your clients is based on the activity or the event that you're doing. It doesn't really matter about the length of time. So you might just say, hey, you know what, for an audit, you know, we charge $500. Okay, it doesn't matter if it takes them 1 hour or 5 hours, we charge $500. So you could say this is a just task-based event that's $500 is what we charge for it. Okay, and we hit save. And you can see it's based on the task. Whenever you create this task in a time entry, it's going to give you a rate of $500 no matter how much time you spent on it. Now, how do you make sure that this gets applied for the client and project that you're working on? When you go under clients and matters, let's click on a specific matter. Doesn't matter whether you're looking at the client itself or the matter. The rate by is where you want to change the rate. By default, it's always going to be timekeeper default. It's always going to create time entries for this matter based on the default for whatever the timekeeper is making the entry, who's making that entry. But if I change it to task, then timekeeper default, that allows TimeSolv to know that if I make a time entry and to a specific task code that has a rate, it's going to change it to that rate. Then it'll go back to my default if I select some other task code that doesn't have a rate, if that makes sense. So I did it for website domain for my client Amir. And remember, audit was the $500 task rate. So right now I'm going to select website domain. Okay, the task code is, notice right now it says my rate's 285, that's my default, but if I select audit now, it changes and shows me it's a fixed amount of $500. You could still track the hours if you'd like for internal purposes, but on the invoice it's just going to show a fixed amount of $500 for an audit, and you can give a description and so on if you'd like. That's because this was a task-based rate that was a fixed amount. So let's go ahead and go back and actually I'll do another, let's do that. Okay, I'm going to hit save and new. So now we have a $500 flat fee, if you will, for this task. But that other task that I had, remember that B150, I think it was $180 an hour. Okay, notice it still shows me that it's at a rate, but now it is an hourly rate, not a just task-based rate. So now if I do 2 hours of this, it's going to do, you know, simple multiplication. It's a $360 charge. So there's the difference. So if you charge by the tasks that you are working on, you have the flexibility to just do a flat rate for that task or make it an hourly rate. Now here's where you can get even more granular. What if you're a type of company where, yes, you're going to have a task-based rate like audit, but you want to have it different for different timekeepers. So, and different for each project that you might work on. Let's go back to this website domain. And I'm at task, then timekeeper default. Notice that I have the option to edit rates here. Let's click on that. Now I can say that when Scott Laidlaw works on B150, his rate is going to be 200, right? But if Mike Hegman works on it, that same task, his rate is going to be 150. Okay, I'm going to hit save. Whoop, I already have them saved, sorry. I'm going to go back to my time entry area. I'm going to hit website domain. Now this is Scott Laidlaw here. And when I select B150, now my rate has changed to 200. Not that 180 that I had set for another, for just the overall, it doesn't matter what the project is. And I can hit save and new. Now let's say if I do Mike Hagman, and I do the same exact client and project, same exact task, their rate is now 150, where it was 200 for Scott Laidlaw. So you can see how it changes specifically for the person and the project. So you can get super granular in how you use your task rates. You can do the same, access that and change it from this same task code screen here, where I could come into this B150, and if I hit edit rates, it's going to show me that I have a variety of rates depending on the client and matter and the professional. So I can't just say Benny Barnes, 100. I do need to actually select a matter. Okay, it can't. I wish you could do all, but you can't in this case. So a lot of flexibility here in how you use the task rates. The key really, once you set them up, is to make sure for your clients and matters that you change it from timekeeper default to task, then whatever the default's going to be. And it's good to note too that when you first create this client for the first time, you can come under the client detail, change it to whatever you want it to be. Then every new project or matter that you create will take the default from the client level. So at least you have that simplicity. If you're doing multiple projects for the same client, and you know you're going to be charging by task, then set it up here at the client level, and then every new project or matter you create will take on the client defaults. Changing this here for any existing matter already in place won't change them, okay? It's not going to change them just because you change it at the client level. It's only for new matters or projects that you work on, okay? All right, any questions right now about anything that I've covered? Pretty well gone through everything. We have our new in-app help, how to group no charge entries on the invoice, our billing categories and how to use them, and our task rates. If you have any questions, this is the time to fire them out. Otherwise, I do have one last thing I want to cover before I let you go for the day. Okay, I don't see any questions. So a lot of you, if you're firm administrators or you're the firm owner of your account in TimeSolv, you've gotten an email from me earlier today. It was in our tip of the week email that came out Monday, and I think I sent an email last week as well about another webinar because, in COVID-19, so, there's only what's one more webinar, right? I think I put that in the subject line. There are a lot of webinars going on about how to handle things during this whole lockdown that we're at. So I'm doing a webinar tomorrow at this exact same time, 1 o'clock Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, that is on the topic of marketing your law firm. And I have a really fantastic guest that's going to be joining me, Alan Rodriguez. He is the founder and CEO of 1400. They are a law firm marketing agency out in California, but really innovative. They're more than just, here's how you do, search engine optimization so your law firm is found on Google type of thing. But really, he talks a lot about law firm processes and how to think beyond just kind of the ABCs of marketing and running a law firm. He's a national speaker. He was involved with LegalZoom for years. I mean, he's done a lot of really interesting stuff in the legal field. So he and I are going to be doing kind of a question and answer session tomorrow that I think you'll really find interesting. So if you haven't registered for it yet, I'm going to grab the URL of this registration page. I'm going to put it in the chat here. So you should see it in the chat section now down at the bottom of your screen, there should be an icon for chat where you can access the URL. And again, you should have gotten an email from me earlier today about how to register for this, or the tip of the week email as well that you received on Monday. There was a link in there to register. So I hope you can join me. We have a ton of people already signed up, so we don't have too many seats left. So if you do want to do it, make sure you get signed up now, because it's one of the most popular webinars I've ever put out there as far as registration numbers as of right now. So be sure you do that. And that's it. No questions came in, so we're all good there, I guess. Either you guys have stopped paying attention or I did a good enough job explaining things. As always, like I said, I will be sending out a recording of this session. So you'll be able to watch this in replay. And our next Wednesday webinar will be, and you can already register for it, the second Wednesday of the month, June 10th. June 10th, we'll do our next one. So until then, once again, I hope you all stay healthy, stay happy, stay productive as we get through this and get back. I know a lot of states are getting back to, it's not going to go back to exactly how things were before this pandemic, but it certainly will be a little bit better than where we're at now, I think. So have a great rest of your week, everybody. Have a great rest of the month, Memorial Day, all that good stuff. And we will talk to you all in June. So thanks, everybody.